Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be looking at Solana. This is going to be a lower time frame video. Make sure you check out a higher time frame video up above if you haven't already. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, before we jump into the minor counting here, what we're going to talk about is the ideas that we are looking for here on the macro. Now, we could potentially be looking for this move to actually complete as a bigger A, B, and a C pattern to the upside, in which case we could be looking for the potential to target out this $43.10. Now, if we, however, are looking at this move as a impulse potentially, what we'd be looking for would be this 91.24 as a potential target for this as a wave 3. And what we'd then be saying is that possibly what we could get here is that this becomes another 1, 2 here, and then we see 3, 4, and 5 looking to push us up into these levels. But it is also possible, like I said, that this could just be corrective. We actually have done enough now that if this is actually a C wave already completed here, we could be looking for the potential of a break to the downside. So we need to just be open to that interpretation. We could have a substantial high in place here, and we could actually see price looking to break to the downside in a bigger way. In the local move down here, nothing is looking too impulsive at the moment, but we need to just be careful that if it does start to break down to a certain level, then we could actually be looking for, that bigger continuation to the downside. So we're going to go over that in a second, but what we could also see here is that within this structure, we could have this as a bigger A, this all becomes B, and then we could still see a C wave to the downside. So we need to be careful of this potential of seeing this C wave to the downside, in which case $6.06 is going to be our current one-to-one target. And what we'd be expecting to see here is a 5-wave structure developing to the downside, where we see a bigger 5-wave move looking to push us down into this zone. So we need to just be aware that as long as this high is holding here and we continue to form 5-wave moves down here, we could potentially set up another 1, 2 here, and then we start to break down in a bigger way looking for this one-to-one. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that if we do see price look to break. Now we're going to come and talk about this area more locally here and what we could have going on. Now within this idea here, we do have a couple of things. Like I said, what we could be looking for here is that this is actually our A wave, where this is a B wave, and we're looking for that C wave to the upside. Now if we are looking at this as an A wave and potentially this B wave is incomplete, what we could still see is something along these lines. And what this would allow for is that if we do have this just as a 3-wave move to the upside here, we have come up into this typical overshooting B wave rejection area, which would be this 3548 to this 2678. So even if we do form this as 1, 2, and then we get a bigger 5-wave structure, which actually looks to find support back again here at this 1279 to this 960 level, this would still align with the possibility that we could still see an additional push to the upside in either that C wave or wave 3 at a later date. So need to just obviously keep an eye on this idea. If we do, however, continue to hold this low, what this could mean is that we could actually start to see some extension directly to the upside. Now, the way that I'd be looking at that, if we are going to see that direct extension, if we come in here onto the 4-hourly, what I would be looking for would be that possibility that within this structure here, we could have something like this playing out. Now, within this idea, invalidation would be this low, which is sitting at this 1288. And what we'd be saying within this, and this is not my favorite way of counting this structure, so what we could argue is that we have this is 1, 2, this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This becomes 4, and then we have this as a 5-wave move. But the problem is it is also very choppy in here, and you can also argue that this could be something like a diagonal pattern and just an ABC into this high. So we need to just be careful because, like I said, it's not the clearest of structures. If this is the case and we're looking for this as a 5-wave structure, what this would then indicate is that either this is a C wave completed into this high and we're going to see a breakdown and lose this low, or alternatively, what we're going to get is a 3-wave move to the downside, looking to find support and then continuing to the upside. Now, we have already come down to this 50% level, which is sitting at this $20.34. If we do see this level hold, we could potentially look for that possibility the C wave is going to push up from where we currently are, in which case this 38.42 would be a 1-to-1 level. Now, if it's going to become a bigger impulse, that would make 57.69 the target we are looking for as a wave 3, which would then align with the fact that this would be a 1, this would be a 2, and then we'd be looking to form this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to actually form that wave 3. Now, within this idea, it is also possible this B wave is incomplete here, and what we could see is something more along these lines. Now, if we come in here again, what we can see is that there was a couple of ways we were discussing this in the previous video. What we're saying is that this could be W, this could be X, and this could be A, B, and C. Now, if this is the case, we have met the minimum requirement of this as a Y wave. And what I'd be on the lookout for is that if we do potentially look to break to the upside here, we could possibly be looking for this move to actually have completed, and we're looking for that C wave already. We do need to be careful, however, because if we do get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up here, just need to be mindful that we can still read this as A, B, and C, in which case this could just be our connector wave here, and then we still look for one more push to the downside. So we need to be very careful with this. If we do start to develop a 5-wave structure up here, we need to hold support again to confirm that this is not a C wave, and then we need to see it look to break to the upside. Until we get that, we need to just be aware that there is always potential for low prices to come in. Now, if we're looking at this as A, B, and C, this move can also just be counted as 3 waves, as A, B, C to the downside. Now, if this is the case, what we could then see is that we could actually just get 3 waves up, and then we could start to form some kind of a contracting diagonal pattern here, looking for this C wave. Until we actually break back above this high, we need to be careful of that continuation down. It is also possible this could be 1, 2, 1, 2. The problem I have with this is this does look like a triangle here, so it is making it more likely, in my opinion, that this is actually either a 4th wave, or this is a connector wave here, where this is A, B, and then we're going to see a C wave down. So we need to just be on the lookout for this. It is possible that this move could complete as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with a truncation, but we'd have to see price breaking back above these levels for confirmation of that. Until we actually take this high, particularly this 22.17, there is still potential to see price continuing to the downside here, looking for some of these lower targets. Like I said, that 1-to-1 would be here at this 17.98. Now we can also potentially look at this slightly different, and this is what I was talking about here, is that we could have this as W, this whole move becomes X as well, and we could look for this as just A, B, and C. Now what this would mean is that we're going to be looking for a 3-wave move to the upside, back into this 24.20, this 24.09 to this 24.45, and then looking for that continuation down. Now, given the current low that we have here at this 20.35, the 1-to-1 would actually be here at this 22.72. So if we see this develop as A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a C wave, we could then look for that possibility of a C wave back to the downside if we fail to break back above this 0.786. Now, if we do start to push past this 1618, which is this 24.33, we need to be on the lookout here that, like I said, this could be 1, 2, 3. We could get a 4th and a 5th. And then from that point, it's going to be important what happens. Like I said, 3 waves down means we could potentially see continuation up. 5-wave structure to the downside would mean that we're potentially looking for a C wave in this location, where instead of looking at the X wave over here, we could have this as, like I said, A, B, and C, and then we look for that C wave at a later point. So that's going to be the key thing here within this count, currently to the downside. If we do continue to hold these highs, though, we need to be careful of that potential of extension directly to the downside. Now, if we were looking for that extension, what we could actually be seeing here is something along these lines, where this becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, I would like to count this as a 5th wave here, if we're going to count this in any way like this, because of the fact that if we get the blue count here looking to play out to the downside, this would actually make wave 3 the shortest wave, which is not allowed. It would, however, still be viable that this could just be A, B, C. We have a triangle for a B wave here, and we still see the blue 5-wave count looking to play out to the downside, in which case what we could actually see here is the possibility of a push down towards this 1855 to this 1820. So this is why, as long as we actually stay below this high, we need to be very careful here that this move could just reject here. We have come up into this 0.618 level here at this 2136, and we could start to see price looking to break down, though confirmation of this as a 5-wave pattern would only come here by crossing this zone of this 1879 level, and that would then be our 3rd wave. We'd then look for a 4th and a 5th, which could look to bring us down here. Now, like I said, we need to be careful if we do start to break down like this, that there isn't something else going on here, in which case what we could actually just have is that this move in itself is starting to extend out, where this is 1, 2, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we get another 4th wave and a 5th wave, and then we just continue to break down like that until we start breaking these highs. We need to be careful of that more bearish situation here. Now, there is a small potential here that we could actually look for a break to the upside given the current structure. What we would then be saying is that for as long as we actually hold this low of this 1985, we have actually come down quite deep here for this wave 2, and we have had a reaction to the upside. We can count this as a 5-wave structure. So what I'm looking for here is that if this becomes 1, 2, we could actually see this develop as a bigger 5-wave move to the upside. Now this could always just become A, B, and C, in which case we look to this 2275 as a possible target before seeing that break to the downside again. Or alternatively, if we do look for this breakout potential, we'd have to cross this 2438 to confirm this idea of breaking out from this low. This would have to protect this zone. If we do push down lower, this would remain alive as long as we hold this 1985. But like I said, this is not the highest probability of moves to play out here, but there is potential because we have this as a potential 5-wave move here. This is a wave 2. We do have another potential 5-wave structure here. We need to see whether this actually continues to push up to these higher levels here, or whether this starts to fail and we look to break to the downside, because within this idea of this being an A, a B, and a C, it is also possible that this B wave could already be completed as a triangle over here, in which case what we'd be looking for as a 1-to-1 would be the 1734. This would still align with the idea of this being a bigger WXY, and you know, potentially this would also then mean that we look to push down deeper here into that idea here of this B waves location, where this would actually align quite nicely with coming back into this golden pocket, which is this 1824 to this 1771 level. And then if it does look to extend out slightly, I would also be keeping an eye on the 786 level here, because there's a potential to obviously swing fail this low within this area as well. I'm going to be watching this to see exactly how we react. If this B wave is complete here, then what we would be expecting is to see a 5-wave move to the downside, and that 1-to-1, like I said previously, would be here at this 1734 level. However, if we do maintain this, what we need to be careful of is, like we talked about previously, the idea that if this is just ABC, we could still see a push up into this yellow target box area, which is this 2409 to this 2245, which could then offer us resistance, and then we look to break down for this W, X, and Y. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for here more locally. There is potential here for us to see some kind of a break to the upside, but we need to be just aware that you know, there is still this possibility that even within that bullish case we could look to break down one more time. We can't ignore that bearish case where we could be looking for this flat correction and looking for this push down. So we need to just be mindful of that within the structure, because we do have 5-wave moves in here. If this starts to extend out and looks to target this A wave here, this could actually align with this idea of a flat correction. Now, another way we're discussing the possibility of this being a C wave was actually looking at that potential that this could be a diagonal pattern. Now, it is possible, like I said, that we could argue this is A, B, and C into this high, and what we'd then be looking for would be A, B, and a C to the downside. Now, the only way this works, however, is that we'd have to say that this is a diagonal pattern here, because we should have zigzags within our structure as a diagonal. Now, if this is the case, once again, we'd have to see how we react here, because we have come down to this 0.618 level of this A wave already, which would make this a viable point where we could see a turnaround, because we have met the minimum requirement. 1-to-1 would be 1788, which would also bring us back into this golden pocket level. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. If we do get this move down here as a 5-wave move where we potentially get some further extension here, this would align with coming back into this, and what we'd be looking for here effectively would be the idea of forming a diagonal pattern. The problem is, if this is going to extend, it could push down past this area here of this 1-to-1 and rather more towards this 1618 level, but I wouldn't want to see it cross that zone. Now, within this idea, what we'd say is that we have this as A, B, and we're looking for the C wave. I have this trend line drawn here, which would be towards this zone of this 1584 below us, which would also be interesting because of the 786 level. If we do see price looking to reject down deeper here, this could align with actually seeing a move down into these lower levels, which would still keep this idea alive, where this could be a diagonal pattern. What we'd then be expecting is a move into a low and then seeing a zigzag to the upside. Now, that zigzag would look to break this wave 1 ideally, and what we would want to see then is that we get another 3-wave move down and another 3-wave move up, forming a contracting wedge shape here to the upside. Coming in here and having a look at the CPR lines, what we can see here on the daily is that we are currently below our CPR lines, our central CPR lines. Now, if we do continue to find resistance here, we do have potential to move back towards this 2044 as a S1 target. If we lose that zone, other targets for today is this 1967, $19, and this 1823 as potential downside targets. If, however, we manage to flip these into support, what we could see is price could actually be gravitated to the upside here, 2186, 2252, 2330 and this 2397 are potential upside targets for today. Now moving over here and having a look at the weekly pivot points, what we can see is that we are currently underneath our central CPR lines. We also have not had an interaction with these, so I would be interested to see that if we do see price looking to push to the upside here, we could actually be looking to have an interaction with these. If, however, we see that price just fails to actually push up here and we start to move away, what I would be looking for as a possible target to the downside would be this 1929 level, in which case that would align with actually seeing one more push to the downside here, where we could look for that continuation after that point to the upside, but we'd have to wait for the reaction. Other targets to the downside for this week would be this 1679. We have this 1376 as downside targets. If during this week we manage to flip these central lines, which are sitting at this 2266 to this $22 level, what we could then see is that price could actually look to attack some of these higher targets. And our targets to the upside here for this week would be this 2479. We have this 2783 and this 3031 as potential upside targets for this week. Moving over onto the monthly here, what we can see is that we're currently underneath our central line. So now we do have an S1 target here at the $17. If we do look to move down here and continue to see this extending to the downside, I will be keeping an eye on this level. Other targets to the downside for this month is this 1026 and all the way down here at this $2.61. Now, if we do see price actually looking to push back to the upside here, what we could then see is an interaction with these central lines. Now, these could give us resistance between this 2418 to this 2511 area. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, particularly within that idea that if this is A, B, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we could look to potentially find resistance here. If, however, during this month we look to actually push back above these and find support, this would open up the potential to actually see a retest of the R1 line here at this 31.38. We have this $39 and this 45.65 as potential upside targets for this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you will find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We will see you in the next one. Take care.